Merry Christmas from 2030 and a prosperous and peaceful 2031. Miracles exist. No one expected that a truce would have been signed in the Western Hemisphere. From December 24th to January 7th, 2031. This has been done to coincide with Catholic and Orthodox Christmas. 2 weeks of peace in a world at war. In reality, there is no truce throughout the East. Fighting continues in southern Philippines and northern Australia. The Asian bloc rejects Western religious imperialism. It is not known exactly when the World War in which we are immersed began. Some geopolitical analysts claim it began in 2014 with the combats in Donetsk and Lugansk and the failed Minsk agreements. Other analysts point to China as the creator of the coronavirus to destabilize the Western economy. But Chinese experts claim that it was Trump who sent the virus to China as a secret weapon to destroy the Chinese economy. Who knows? It is a matter of the fog of war. Disinformation as a weapon of war. Other historians go so far as to compare the Ukraine war with the Spanish Civil War from 1936 to 1939, predecessor of the Second World War. The third began in a similar way. After the Budapest Agreements, an end was put to the war in Ukraine in 2026. Russia annexed Crimea, Donetsk, Lugansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Ukraine reduced its army to 600,000 men and committed to never joining NATO. A new super-militarized border was created from Estonia to the mouth of the Dnieper. Why this comparison? 5 months passed from the end of the Spanish Civil War, on April 1st, 1939, until the start of the Second World War, on September 1st, 1939. 5 months also passed from the signing of the end of combats in Ukraine until the total attack by the United States on Venezuela. At first, the Americans were successful. They occupied half the country and created a government sympathetic to Trump. The eternal president needed a war to stay in power without calling elections. But Venezuela became the second Vietnam for the United States. Guerrilla groups occupied the Amazon from Peru to the Guianas. Long-range missiles and drones supplied by China, Iran, and Russia attacked the refineries. It became very complicated to ship oil in the Caribbean Sea. The paradox arose that American soldiers were mostly Latinos and blacks, to whom American nationality was promised in exchange for serving until the end of the war on the Amazon front. There were many desertions and even cases of traitors who sabotaged the facilities were reported. When the United States was bogged down in South America, China decided to attack Taiwan with everything it had. The island resisted for 3 days. Hypersonic missiles destroyed 80% of the aircraft carrier fleet in the Pacific. And the Panama Canal was neutralized by 3 thermobaric bombs. This is what was called the Second Pearl Harbor. Japan and South Korea were not direct battlefronts. The action moved to the Philippines and New Guinea. The Chinese established a bridgehead in Queensland. Their objective was clear: to totally conquer Australia and turn it into the new China. The conflict spread to Pakistan and India. Punjab became the new battlefield. At this moment, the Asian Islamic Alliance was created. The war spread to Africa, on the border between Islamic Africa and Christian animist Africa. Fierce combats took place in northern Nigeria, Mali, and Sudan, with the extermination of entire populations. Seeing the situation, Putin decided to claim the Kaliningrad corridor to supply his colony in the Baltic, the former Königsberg. The pressures increased. The United States, fighting in South America and the Pacific, disengaged from the European problem. This agreement allowed Russia to annex part of the Kaliningrad corridor, a strip about 60 to 100 kilometers long located between Poland and Lithuania that separates the Russian enclave of Kaliningrad to the west on the Baltic coast, from Belarus to the east, Moscow's main ally. In passing, it also occupied much of Russian-speaking Lithuania. The European Union reacted promptly, but the conflict stalled on a super-fortified line, where drones patrolled, annihilating any man or machine. The spending on materials is enormous. The European economy on the verge of exhaustion, can barely sustain the effort. Some journalists announce a future Russian-Polish agreement that guarantees the borders of all Eastern Europe except the Suwalki corridor and some Ukrainian territories. But many European leaders distrust Putin. They know that the next claim will be the Transnistria corridor, territory occupied by the Russians in Moldova, recently a member of the European Union. But let's be optimistic. A truce has been signed in the West. It is possible that a Polish-Russian agreement will be signed and that combats in the Baltic will cease. And within the bad, the world has not suffered a nuclear attack either. None of the contenders has used these weapons. The world is tired of war, and even China is eager for peace and to restore world trade. The geopolitics of the planet will undoubtedly change with new rules. The dollar will cease to be the world reference currency to return to the gold standard. The borders will surely be redrawn, and new world powers will sit at the table of the renewed UN, with headquarters outside America this time. Istanbul, Alexandria, or even Malta are mentioned. Therefore, let's be optimistic. It is Christmas. A truce has been signed throughout the West, and the end of the war is foreshadowed soon. Let us hope that this time no power feels humiliated and exploited to the limit.